I'm First Lieutenant Gracie Gallegos from Ramsden Air Base, Barbarossa Chapter, and I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker. Lieutenant General Warren Berry will present the state of logistics. General Berry is a Deputy Chief of Staff for Logistics, Engineering, and Force Protection, Headquarters, U.S. Air Force, the Pentagon, Arlington, Virginia. He is responsible to the Chief of Staff for leadership, management, and integration of Air Force logistics readiness, aircraft, munitions, and missile maintenance, civil engineering, and security forces, as well as setting policy and preparing budget estimates that reflect enhancements to productivity, combat readiness, and quality of life for airmen. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant General Berry.
Good morning and greetings from the Pentagon. On behalf of your A4 team, I'd like to start by extending a hearty welcome to Log Nation across the globe and welcome you to the virtual 2021 Logistics Officer Association Symposium. Given our current operating environment and the unprecedented past year, it's only fitting that this year's theme is Agile Logistics for the Future Fight. If I could describe this past year in a few words, I would say unpredictable and rapidly evolving, which is exactly the landscape we can expect as we posture to operate in a future high-end National Defense Strategy or NDS fight. While COVID-19 presented a few logistics challenges and exposed some vulnerabilities, the logistics enterprise demonstrated a pretty remarkable ability to rapidly adapt and overcome in a very dynamic environment. Whether you're on the flight line, teleworking, or operating at one of our air logistics complexes, one fact remained: the mission never paused, thanks to you. In turn, we partnered together and persevered through the fog and friction. Our depots continued to maintain, repair, and overhaul aircraft and equipment. Industry continued to manufacture. And our airmen and guardians across the globe continued to generate combat air and space power for our nation, despite some pretty immense challenges. In short, you demonstrated agile logistics. And agility is the key. As the department postures to operate in contested, degraded environments while under attack, we must examine the resiliency of our supply chain, assess the industrial base's capacity, refine joint CONOPS, and measure our collective readiness as we aim to accelerate change, develop the Air Force we need, and prepare for the future high-end NDS fight against a near-peer or peer adversary. While I look forward to discussing readiness and resourcing, sustainment, force generation, F-35, retention, organizational structures, or a host of other topics of interest at our fireside chat later in LOA, my State of Logistics remarks this morning will center on the conference's theme and really focus on two key areas: persistent logistics as the department's answer to logistics under attack, and operationalizing the sustainment strategic framework to enable national defense strategy readiness. When we think about readiness, we need to ask the question, ready for what? Strategic guidance focuses on competition and great power conflict. Therefore, we must balance prudent risk in the near term to ensure future readiness. That's why over the course of the symposium, you'll hear a unifying theme from the Chief, General Keynote, General Kirkland, and others about the importance of logistics in warfare. Not just any logistics, persistent logistics. For the last 3 decades, adversaries studied the American way of war, learning how we operate and planning ways and developing means to counter our strengths. While engaged in a counterterrorism fight, our logistics enterprise has become all too accustomed to operating in permissive and semi-permissive environments. However, near-peer adversaries have studied our tactics, increased resources, and enhanced their capabilities, and we will not be afforded this same luxury in the future. For this reason, the National Defense Strategy highlights logistics under attack as a key operational problem. It recognizes the challenges a capable adversary will pose to our ability to sustain a fight by disrupting our transportation networks, attacking our information systems, and placing our installation power projection platforms under threat of both kinetic and non-kinetic attack. Therefore, if logistics under attack is the key operational problem, then persistent logistics, with the inherent ability to posture, sense, and respond, is our warfighting answer. It is our unifying vision. While it outlines what we need to do, the how is a little bit more complex. So let's talk first about posture. Posture is the element of persistent logistics with the most breadth. It entails the entire .mil-PFP spectrum. These actions involve long lead times, requires fielding and implementation prior to armed conflict, and require us to critically think about new ways and means to set the theater, to harden critical nodes, develop and field disruptive technologies, certainly train multi-capable airmen, create adaptable supply chains, and enhance multinational interoperability with our allies and partners. Sense, on the other hand, means fielding the correct mix of technology, leadership competencies, and knowledge management to overcome information overload. It certainly facilitates LOGC2, which nests within JADC2, by pursuing digital modernization efforts to sense in real time and create a shared understanding of all logisticians and commanders across the battle space. And respond must be at the speed of relevance in support of those warfighter needs. And it's enabled, and in some ways bounded, by how well we posture and sense. So to effectively posture, sense, and respond, we have to determine the capability gaps and changes required across that .mil-PFP spectrum, and then research, test, and field solutions to operationalize persistent logistics. And that said, we need your help. We welcome your insight, your creativity, your innovative solutions, and certainly your leadership to advance this warfighting approach together. To assess our gaps and field the Air Force we need, the .mil-PFP changes must be made with an understanding of the strategic landscape, the future operational environment, and the evolving character of war. Our current and predicted strategic environment is characterized by great power competition. It's not the bipolar world of the Cold War or America's post-Cold War unipolar moment, but a dynamic multipolar environment. The Air Force and Joint Forces' future operating environment is shaped by an increasingly capable pacing adversary with the ability to kinetically strike our forward air bases and our allies with a high volume of fires. Additionally, our adversaries have advanced capabilities to attack in space, cyber, and information domains. And we must understand that the homeland is also not a sanctuary from kinetic attack, but just as important, non-geographically limited domains, things like cyber and information, have effectively lowered the threshold for military action. Our adversaries aim to exploit our vulnerabilities even in competition, but these actions significantly increase in scope and severity if daily competition escalates into crisis or open armed conflict. In short, the character of warfare is continually evolving. By most indications, we expect 21st century warfare to be characterized by an astoundingly fast operational pace, with an unprecedented potential of personnel and materiel attrition not seen since the early wars of the 20th century. The combination of the evolving strategic and operational environments and the character of war lead to several imperatives necessary to operationalize persistent logistics. And so it's imperative that we do a few things. One, organize to enable and sustain agile combat employment. Two, expand logistics cooperation and capabilities with allies and partners. Three, improve resiliency and responsiveness in our strategic supply chains. Next, create a logistics common operating picture to support LOGC2 as part of JADC2. We need to leverage digital modernization and the theory of constraints to optimize opportunities to improve efficiency, affordability, and effectiveness simultaneously. We need to partner with the Joint Staff to nest Air Force ConOps within the joint concepts for contested logistics. And we need to contribute to joint all-domain integrated defense of air power generation in our air power platforms. We must organize, train, and equip our logistics enterprise to support dispersed operations in highly contested geographic areas. In other words, we have to be prepared to enable and sustain agile combat employment. Today, our logistics tail is too heavy and too slow to enable the necessary pace of dispersal to sustain sortie generation. Therefore, we need to reduce our personnel and equipment footprint, field lighter, perhaps autonomous distribution platforms, consider runway-independent options, produce multi-capable airmen, and critically examine how we think about and use war readiness materiel to achieve a viable pre-positioned asset posture. And finally, we have to posture our strategic supply chains to reduce risk, remove fragility that we have today, and improve the ability to surge when required. As we sense, it's imperative to produce a viable Big L Logistics Common Operating Picture, or LOGCOP. This tailorable capability will provide information most relevant to the user, pulling from an enterprise-wide data. Additionally, this big data integration creates opportunities to integrate predictive analytics, machine learning, and artificial intelligence to realize improvements in effectiveness and efficiency while creating the logistics decision support system necessary to enable our decision advantage. Logistics digital modernization also will enable LOGC2 nested within that JADC2, incorporating both our joint and combined partners. Making LOGC2 a reality will involve building a system of systems, but also building the confidence among our airmen and ensuring authorities are appropriately assigned at the lowest possible level. In terms of respond, being responsive enough for information age high-end warfare means being predictive in the logistics realm. We need to be prepared to transition to a push logistics system during conflict. We know a requisition-based pull system will be too slow to sustain the pace of a future high-end fight. Furthermore, a number of semi-autonomous or autonomous delivery systems, including some runway-independent systems, may be necessary to ensure dispersed operations in non-permissive environments are sufficiently supplied to handle the sortie generation load. Disrupted communications are also likely, so tactical and operational level logistics leaders have to be prepared and empowered to act with an understanding of the strategic and operational commander's intent. Our ability to respond at the speed of relevance will be in large part predicated on how successful we are at accelerating change with regards to posture and sense. For example, posturing incorrectly will limit the commander's decision space if the conflict takes an unexpected turn. Similarly, an inability to sense accurately and holistically may delay our response options. Therefore, we have to rigorously set posture and sense elements to enable a response in timelines relevant to our combatant commanders and the pace of battle. In summary, adaptability, information advantage, and resilience are key attributes that will dominate the 21st century security environment. Persistent logistics, posture, sense, and respond, provides our strategic approach to deliver those attributes for the Air Force logistics enterprise and overcome the key operational problem of conducting logistics under attack in an era of great power competition. In short, if logistics under attack is the inherent warfighting problem, then persistent logistics, described by the strategic framework, is our warfighting answer. So operationalizing that strategic framework serves as a critical enabler for our ability to handle logistics under attack. We're committed to advancing our Air Force's leadership's charge to develop a strategic framework that materially improves the sustainment of Air Force weapon systems. As the department collectively aims to develop airmen, reduce bureaucracy, improve our competitive edge, and construct the future design, the A4 enterprise is focused on operationalizing the sustainment strategic framework to preserve and enhance readiness to meet the demands of the National Defense Strategy. Our framework has 4 lines of effort that will enable persistent logistics: enhancing mission generation, improving enterprise material support, expanding enterprise repair networks, and capitalizing on new data analytics and methods. We've moved out on initiatives across the 4 lines of effort, all of which are yielding some pretty promising results. We employed an industry-proven method for eliminating barriers to efficiency called theory of constraints that improves base-level maintenance process, driving huge gains at some pilot bases like Ellsworth and Fairchild. As an example, Fairchild Air Force Base reduced their scheduled inspections for KC-135s by 70%, and that added 1,500 days of aircraft availability to that one wing. Ellsworth Air Force Base increased their B-1 mission capable rate by 27% and fly 66% more sorties per tail than they did before they started doing theory of constraints. We invested in innovative predictive maintenance technologies such as Conditions-Based Maintenance Plus, which incorporates both enhanced reliability-centered maintenance and sensor-based algorithms, with 16 MDSs now actively building proactive maintenance alerts. We added 600 part numbers, about 50%, and 9 new networks to repair network integration in just the last 6 months. We're driving more repair capability to the field, which also helps with deployed and disconnected operations. And along the way, we've avoided over $60-some million in cost. We built more resiliency in our supply chains through dual sourcing of critical spare parts, and just through a simple cash flow process change, have begun funding critical parts that don't fail often, but when they do, result in significant aircraft downtime. Furthermore, we reached initial operating capability on a NIPR and a SIPR version of a very basic logistics common operating picture to capture a holistic site picture of supply chain health, repair operations, and the parts distribution network. Finally, a word or two about advanced manufacturing. Every day at bases across the globe, airmen are challenged with generating air power while they wait on critical parts to arrive. If you sit in a production meeting, you'll hear a common phrase, parts plus 3, that describes where schedulers and prosupers build a maintenance plan to remove and replace critical components. These plans often rely on MICAPs arriving days later, but hopefully just in time to support the daily launch. Now, imagine a world where instead of parts plus 3, we empower airmen with the tools and technology to brief parts printed in 3. I'd ask you to take a second to reflect on that phrase, parts printed in 3. It's an exciting future for our Air Force, and it's why we are committed to discover, develop, and implement agile and effective additive manufacturing strategies, policies, and technology solutions. Through operationalizing the strategic framework, we are beginning to grasp the full potential across the 4 lines of effort to advance our logistics and operational concepts. In turn, we're calling upon you, our airmen, industry, and academic partners to transform how the Air Force views logistics and sustainment to improve resiliency and agility so we can compete, deter, and if necessary, win today's and tomorrow's wars wherever they may occur. In closing, as we assess our ability to operate in rapidly evolving contested and degraded environments, we have to assess our posture and determine the critical investments and process improvements we need to enhance our readiness. Persistent logistics is the department's answer to logistics under attack, centered on our ability to posture, sense, and respond. In turn, the A4 is laser focused on operationalizing the sustainment framework to preserve and enhance readiness to prosecute the NDS. With that, I will end by simply saying thank you. Thank you for what you do day in and day out for our Air Force and for our logistics and sustainment enterprise. Thank you to our airmen and their families for their sacrifices. Thank you for staying resilient during what can only be described as challenging times and for being amazing wingmen. I'm humbled to be your A4 in what is undoubtedly the world's greatest Air Force, and I look forward to the day when we can meet again in person. Until that day, please accept our deepest gratitude. Thank you, Log Nation. You are truly our nation's heroes.